Max!
Ho-ho!
How you doing, man?
Dude, I'm hurting.
Well, since the last episode, we have a million things to get to.
I know.
We could spend the whole time talking about you.
Yeah.
But
I'm always so interesting.
Well, we're not going to, though.
There's only so much stuff going on.
We're going to split it a little bit.
We don't get to talk about me. I'm so relieved.
Yes, we're not going to. But we have to get to some stuff.
We'll get to some stuff.
We have another amazing special guest.
This guy's pretty special.
And you brought him in. He's a friend of yours. Now he's a friend of mine.
Oh, yeah.
And
I've known Joe Dungan since, the mid-'90s, Joe?
Oh, no, before that.
Really? See,
Well,
I don't
we
know
met-
your backstory, but we have to first welcome Joe to Magazine Podcast.
Thank you.
Joe is an author
I'm glad to
and
be here.
a comedian.
And I'm toasting you right now.
And a teacher and a brain. And he's hilarious.
And a denture wearer.
And a denture
He
wearer.
wears dentures.
Oh, wow. Well, we'll get to why you wear the dentures. But Joe, to me, I have known you for a little bit, but I only know you as a comedian. You're a stand-up comedian.
According to some audiences,
But,
yes.
I mean, I love stand-up comedy, and I've always liked people's backstories, how they became a stand-up comedian. How do you go from being good old Joe to a comedian?
Well, you just start going to mics. You start writing jokes, and you just start doing it. That's really it. It's been a slow crawl. And there's no telling what this is going to lead to. I don't know if I'm going to stay a comedian forever. For me, a lot of it is about performing. I've always had this urge to perform.
Even when you were a kid?
he's a really good actor.
Really? You act too?
That's kind of you to say.
Yeah.
I didn't know you
he
had-
acts. He's done a lot of stage.
You're a multi-layered guy.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a jack of all trades, master of none.
Okay.
I feel like I've tried a lot of things, and I'm okay or better than okay at some of them. But I've always feel like there's so much more to learn. Like this guy to me is an actor. Max is an actor. That you to me. And people we know, the magazine podcast doesn't know them. I won't bore them with names. But
Right.
people you and I know
Yeah.
over the years from Cal State Northridge.
Sure.
Yeah, I could rattle off names. People who went to, Rutgers and got the
Right.
masters, those guys, and others who didn't go to Rutgers, but still, those people are actors
Yeah.
to me because they're at it for a long time.
Yeah.
You voiceover, all the voice stuff you've done. You're an actor to me. I'm not. I'm a guy who people found my acting entertaining, which. I mean, I'll take, but I don't.
Well, you're like Harry Dean Stanton in that anything you play, you're always just playing yourself. I mean,
Really?
you don't have a lot of range.
So I'm Dennis Franz, is what you're saying.
Yes. And I do think you should get into voice. I told you should get into voiceover. Because you have this voice when you talk.
You do have a nice kind of deep...
I feel like I could do radio.
What do you mean?
See?
See?
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually kind of sexy.
Well,
I got a little piece of wood happening.
You know what? Maybe thank you. I'll take the.
He's like
the
a white
couple-
man's George Takei. Oh, my. Except he's Joe and not Japanese.
Maybe I should. And this leads to a bigger thing for me is because I have a day job. I work in an advertising agency. Great bunch of people. It's a terrific job. I'm glad I have it. And I'm trying to figure out when is the right time to make the leap, And I think a lot of...
You mean to quit your job and go on tour and star,
whatever.
do it like Jay Leno did and
How
Jerry
can I
Seinfeld
live
did and all
my
those guys?
life and make enough money to satisfy me in the meantime? Because I think there's going to be a long lean period where I'm not making what I'm making. I'm not rich now, but I'm not. I mean, as I like to say, I made more money than most comedians in town last year. Unfortunately, I didn't make most of it doing comedy.
Right.
But I am wealthier than most comedians in town, but it's not because of comedy. It's because I
Right.
have a day job.
Right.
And a lot of them
Right.
don't. They drive
But,
Uber
I
and
mean,
all things.
there isn't any kind of romanticism to be the starving artist anymore. Who wants
No.
to starve?
No.
I
You
don't
get
want
a
to
certain
starve.
age, it's just like,
I've
fuck
tried to
that.
make it in music myself for years, but I always had a job because I thought, why starve? I never bought into that myth.
Right.
I like having a bed and good food and
Right. And if you can compartmentalize that and just say to yourself, okay, what intermediate goal am I trying to achieve here, and how much time is it going to require? And that's when you have to ask yourself, okay, what do I do with the rest of my time? I've cut back on my drinking, not tonight,
thank God, I got 2 bottles of wine open
and
for
they're
you.
both fantastic. But it's when do you make those choices? And I've known too many comedians, and I've been that comedian where you just sort of blindly throw yourself vaguely in the direction of stand-up comedy, and then you wonder why 10 years later you're still doing open mics on a Monday night getting drunk with a bunch of millennials.
Right.
I'm like, well, wait a minute. Where you clearly went off track here at some point. If this mic that you're doing is the highlight of your week, then you're doing something wrong. Now, there are some pros who go out every night, and if they don't have a gig, they will go to an open mic. I know some people who go on tour. They get paid for it. They're not household names, but at least they can go to Indianapolis for a weekend or St. Louis or wherever. And if they're in town on a Thursday night and they don't have a mic, they will go to an open mic and try out new stuff because it's what they do. Mm-hmm. And they're sitting here going, okay, well, I'm not going to charge $20 a head when I go to Columbus, and try out new stuff. I'm going to try out new stuff here and make sure it works and then go charge money for it. And I totally respect that.
Right.
But there are some people who just do open mics just to do open mics.
Right.
And I'm glad that there's this mechanism inside of me that said, in the last couple of years, okay, Joe, now what? Why are you just rotely going to these mics? And a lot of them are kind of crappy. But hopefully there's something inside of every artist that says, this thing that I'm doing now is no longer serving me.
Right.
I'm glad I was able to do this for the time being.
Right.
But now I've reached a point where it's time to figure out how do I get to this next level.
And you have to think different about what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, again, I think I have that mechanism now because for the longest time I tried things and I kept bouncing from thing to thing because I liked the novelty of it. And then once you realize, oh, wait a minute, this shit requires work, then it kind of lost its luster. And I'm going, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. But for whatever reason, stand-up is kind of stuck. And ironically enough, the more I get into stand-up, the more I see stand-up comedians leaving stand-up to do other things because there actually are not a whole lot of comedians in the country who make a living exclusively doing stand-up comedy.
Well, is it completely your passion? I mean, if you have a vision for yourself, I mean, you have a day job in advertising, but is the vision for you see yourself, whether it's stand-up, doing, I don't know, HBO specials, getting a sitcom, doing movies, all the above, that kind of life? Is that what you would like to do?
Roughly. I think that's been another challenge of mine is I've never fully seen what my vision is for me. I've never quite figured that out. And I'm still, to me, it's all been a journey. I'm still not figuring out what the
And a
destination
relatively short one. Like, you've had quite a trajectory, but you only started doing stand-up. Well,
It'll
you've been doing it a
be-
long time, but when you got real serious about it,
Yeah, it'll be about almost 6 years now.
6 years.
Right, which isn't really a long time.
No, but
I
it's
mean,
an
when you
exciting
hear
time because it's roughly like 5 to 8 years in when stuff starts to happen for
Really?
comedians. Yeah, they start to.
And you're already getting hired.
I've gotten corporate gigs here and there.
Oh, well, that's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
So you have, I'm not saying you have a huge fan base, but you're not completely unknown either.
No.
Oh,
I'm
that's
not,
great.
I'm not a total unknown.
You
He's
chipped-
emceeing shows.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And now you're being asked to MC shows.
Once in a while.
Okay,
I
well, that's
still
great.
need to actively solicit that
Hustle.
and hustle that. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's still a hustle. It's still a grind.
Yeah, but how many of these schlubby comedians can say they have a great book that a lot of people loved? He wrote a book of essays about Los Angeles called
I?
L.A. Nuts. That's really what catapulted him into all this.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
we allow everybody to be a whore. So tell us where can you get the book?
Amazon.
Amazon.
And
LA
Amazon.
Nuts. It's a book
It's a
about
real book.
Last time
stories of Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's a book about Max is the biggest champion of this book, and I've
Yeah.
always appreciated that.
Yes. I've read it twice.
It started as essays for a website.
I can't believe we didn't bring Lorenzo a copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, shame
Jesus
on me.
Christ.
I'll get you a copy.
We'll get you. We'll get one.
We'll take care of you.
All right.
But it started as essays, and Max was one of the people who just like appointment television. Max would get on the website every week when the latest essay was up, and you were like the first person to read it. And
Yes.
I totally dug it.
Yes.
I was waited for your feedback. Those were fun old
That's
days.
right. It was. When was that? What year was that? That
2000
was the old blog days.
2005 to 2007.
2005.
Well,
It was-
let me go back even further. Did you guys meet at CSUN?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't
Oh.
go to CSUN, but I was looking for actors for a play outside of CSUN. And who was my friend Doug, who I went to high school with, he went to CSUN. So
Right.
he was kind of the conduit to all of these CSUN guys who became my closest friends in life. The whole gaggle. Adam, Joe,
Right.
Stefan, which led me to Brett Pearson's,
Right.
Matt Kaminsky. We just said we weren't going to say all the names of
Right.
these guys.
Well, also, to people who don't live in LA, CSUN stands for Cal State University Northridge.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is part of the Cal State University system.
Yes.
And
You were studying film there.
Yeah, I was a TV film major.
Right.
that's very cool.
And what'd you do with that degree?
I very doggedly pursued unemployment for 2 years. And then I
It's
ended up-
amazing to see your ascension because What was that shitty one-room hovel you lived in
Oh,
a back
yeah.
alley that
Yeah.
I went there one night and like, have a seat in the kitchen? Like it was a
dump.
hovel, and
It
now he
was-
owns property.
It was a dump.
All right. Well,
It
you've
was-
come a long way
It was a
then.
one-room. It was a studio guest house, literally about a mile from where I am now.
Yeah.
It was up at that big intersection, very
Yeah.
close to. It was that Roger Dunn golf shop, which is
Yeah,
in
sure,
CYS
that's
or
not there
something.
anymore.
It was behind a donut store.
Yeah, right.
And the couple that lived in the front house actually said they were trying to conceive children, but they couldn't because they think the dry cleaner right there spewed so many chemicals into the air that it made them sterile.
That's awesome.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
that's the kind of neighborhood it was.
You didn't live in a car, though. At least you had a studio.
I had a place. It was.
That's cool.
I don't want people to get all nostalgic about LA, but it was $425 a
Oh.
month, and it wasn't worth that much.
Right.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But I stayed there 4 years.
Oh, wow.
But
But it
worked
gave
for
you
me.
a start.
Yeah,
You know, it gave you a
I-
place at the end of the day to go to.
Yeah, I survived.
You weren't in an alley somewhere.
No, I did. I was doing fine, and I worked my way out of there. So
Let me ask you a question. You know, I love stand-up comedy. I love whether it's Carlin or Seinfeld or Pryor, and they all have biographies now and documentaries, and they kind of all say the same thing: how they got started. They were kids, and they could make their parents laugh, and they were like, "Ooh, this feels great." Were you that kind of guy? Did you make your parents laugh, and it gave you a little spark to say, "I think I could do this"?
I had moments. I had moments when I could make my parents laugh. I don't know if it was so much that. I think it was a need for attention. I mean,
but even when you were young,
yeah, when I was I think when my mom got remarried, that's when it started. I was a happy kid till he came along. I think that kind
that's
of
when the
created some
tension
friction.
started.
Yeah, and
His dad was a manager for Bob's Big Boy.
Yeah,
oh, you're
my mom
kidding.
and dad got divorced when I
I
was about
love
4.
Bob's Big Boy.
Yeah, and my dad spent his life in the big boy industry. And he lived in L.A. until I was about 8, and then he opened up a franchise in Northern California with 2 other guys, and he lived up there the rest of his life.
Wow.
And he was in the big boy industry until about 83, and then he sold
But
out.
obviously moved away from you and your
Yeah,
mom.
yeah.
Oh,
He
wow.
moved away, and my brother lived up there here and there. He went to some school up there. He went to Berkeley up there, so he lived with my dad for some of that. But I lived down here the whole time.
You never had one of those big boy statues in your front lawn or something?
Not the big ones, no.
Okay,
but
but
I
some-
had the piggy bank. I had the big boy piggy bank, but I don't know what
I
happened to
can
it.
see Joe as Big Boy. He
I
kinda
kind of
looks like
could.
him.
I have the
A little
hair flip
more
Grab
gel.
the pompadour a little
A
bit.
little more gel.
Put him in some red and white checkered
Yeah,
overalls.
yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that
Little-
because
little big,
every
freckles.
every 4th of July in Danville, they had a parade, and there was a big boy that walked the parade. My dad wore the big boy outfit.
Whoa.
And I think the
that's
only
great.
reason he did is because
Did he wear the fiberglass head over him?
Yeah, it was a gigantic head, and somewhere exists a photograph of me wearing that head,
Wow.
which Max would appreciate because the joke's about the size of my head.
My head.
because
Joe has
Max's head is about the 3rd biggest head in the world.
it is kind of a big head.
Mine is second,
But
and,
he's
and
got
I know a guy.
he's got
who's-
that nice cranium for the resonance of his voice.
That's the idea. I intimidate people with my head and my voice.
That's right. I will kill you with my head.
Wow.
When your dad was wearing the costume when you were a kid, was it basically pride or utter embarrassment?
Oh, it was cool. Oh, it was
okay.
cool.
So it was like, that's my dad in the
It was-
costume.
it was cool.
It wasn't like, oh, dad,
My
really?
brother,
At
he did it-
Thanksgiving, got to wear big boy?
There were a few years. He did it for a few years, and we used to. My brother and I would follow along. I remember one year we didn't want to for some reason. We were bored or something, so he gave us a few bucks, and he said, "You can go to the bowling alley." So the bowling alley was open, and we actually went bowling, and there was nobody in there. There was no one in the bowling alley. My brother and I just bowled while Dad was doing the parade.
Right.
But I remember him. I think he wore it because he was 5'6", and he was the only one who could fit into the costume. The other owners were tall guys. My dad was about 5'6", so
Right.
5'8", something. So they
Right.
shoved him in that. And then I remember meeting him at his car at the end of the route once, and he took the thing off, and he was just drenched in
Oh, I
sweat.
would
If you
think
can
that would
imagine, 4th of July.
Oh, my God.
This heavy thing, and the head was almost as big as my head. It was about 3 feet across, and it had this. The hair was actually glued yarn, like one piece of yarn over and over again, just glued, hand glued onto
Wow.
this pompadour shaped thing. And then there was a party afterwards. The owner had a house in Diablo, which is near Danville. We'd go there afterwards that afternoon. And then somewhere there's a photo of me wearing this gigantic head. If you can imagine like a 10-year-old version of me with this head that was way the
Wow.
hell out here. It looked like a cartoon.
Wow. It's like Halloween all the time.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Wow.
It was fun times.
But that's a very unique story. I mean,
Yeah.
not many people's dad was
No,
boy.
and I have some big boy swag, which you saw once. I brought out the old
Yeah,
cufflinks.
yeah.
Big boy cufflinks.
There were corporate,
Wow.
there were corporate events.
That's
where,
probably a collector's item.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. There were,
He's a real California boy. Like,
Oh, wow.
I said, hey, I'll drive you
One
through
of the-
somewhere on the way to the show tonight. We'll drive through and eat some junky food on the way down. In-N-Out! In-N-Out Burger, of
Yeah.
course, an iconic California place.
It's the
Of
best.
course, he chose the one that's like an hour and 50-minute wait in line.
Oh.
We'll go to the one in Van Nuys.
Right.
This is how I do Joe.
Okay.
He's always like this when he talks. E-O! He's sleeping through it.
you done yet? Oh, is he done?
This is
Okay.
the worst experience of his life.
No, it's flattery when Max imitates you. Yeah, and Max never imitates you, by the way.
No,
so-
because he doesn't like me.
Yeah.
Because I don't like you. No. It is so good to have you, John.
See,
Joan.
see, he imitates you like you're a person. I'm from Kabul. I'm from Afghanistan, and I work at a 7-Eleven, and
How could you say I don't like you? That's
I'm-
terrible.
kidding.
Terrible.
It's just the wine talking.
That's true.
Now, Joe, even though you're saying that, you were pretty, into making your parents laugh when you could, did you start writing jokes, or were you the class clown? Were you kind of like quiet at home but class clown in person?
I think there's some truth to that.
All right.
I think
it's a common story.
I acted out in school, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I was voted most original, actually, which I took as a
I
compliment.
mean, as a personality.
yeah,
Oh,
in
that's
the
very
yearbook.
cool.
Yeah, there's a very dorky photo of
course.
me in the yearbook somewhere of me
Most
voted
original.
most original. I remember thinking, God, I thought everybody hated me. Why? How? I didn't think they liked me enough to vote for me.
Oh,
so
really?
I took that as flattery, but I didn't. I didn't. Another recurring thread through all of this is I never really believed in myself that much. I thought, I couldn't. I don't know if I can do this. In fact, the first time I did stand up was as a freshman in college. Brett Pearsons was there, by the way. Our friend Brett,
He's been on this show.
who went to Cal State Northridge. I met Brett at Cal State
So
Northridge.
in college was your very first stand-up
Correct.
performance.
Correct.
And you wrote out the whole material.
I wrote out 8 minutes of material,
Mm-hmm.
and I forgot half of it. I did about 4 minutes and 15 seconds, I remember. And it was on the short list of scariest things I've ever done in my life.
It takes guts,
Wow.
though.
Yeah, but if you've never done it, it's a natural
Right.
reaction to say, oh my God, this is horrifying.
It's like you're looking at yourself doing it and completely judging yourself as you're doing it.
No.
Okay.
No, I completely judged myself on the video. I watched it over and over
Okay.
again. Oh, God,
okay.
this is
The
awful.
judgment came later.
Yeah.
But there
it-
was judgment, though.
It's just, you're so scared you're not thinking straight.
I see.
That's the problem with it, which is why you have to do it. I know a guy who tried stand up for the first time, and he said, I'm very nervous. And I said, oh, don't worry. It gets much easier after the first 400 or 500 times,
Right.
which is a joke, but not a joke.
Right,
You,
I understand.
You have to do it a million times. Then
Right.
all of a sudden, you break through and it becomes easier.
Right.
So that's when I started. But I didn't, as I like to say back then, I didn't have anybody to encourage me, and I didn't have anybody to stop me. So I just kept doing bad stand-up. And every semester they had an open mic night.
What was it about?
My first gig,
Your material.
oh God, it was so bad. I remember my first joke that I told. It was, I came on stage and I said, how they have these public service announcements saying, don't do cocaine, don't smoke marijuana. Have you ever noticed they don't have any about doing acid? So that's why I take acid. Exactly. It got a laugh. It actually got a laugh.
sure it did.
I think I delivered it better then than I did here.
Right.
But that was the kind of stuff. I didn't.
What's
know what to talk
another
about.
one from that set?
Oh, I made fun of. What did I make fun of? I think I made fun of the Love Boat.
Oh, I love that show.
How they always had, blah 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 on the Love Boat. That's because that was the commercial trailer for that.
Love
No matter what happened,
won't hurt anyone.
that's not true.
Climb aboard. We're expecting you. The Love Boat. I love that. I own those on DVD.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you watch them all the time.
I do.
I think so. Just hacky stuff like that. I think I made fun of, the kind of thing where you have them say something really disgusting in a famous person's voice. Tonight, Gopher and Isaac butt fuck each other on the Love Boat or something stupid. It was something stupid like that.
But that's
it was,
funny.
It was silly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. But I kept doing it. The summer of '88, I went once a week to the LA Cabaret in Encino. Do you remember
Oh
that
my
place?
God, I remember
Yeah.
that place.
I
Yeah.
do too.
I performed there.
Yeah, I found out there was an open mic, and I went there every Sunday, and I tried to do something. I didn't know you were supposed to write every day. I didn't know you were supposed to drive all over town and do 2 mics a night and all that stuff. So I went there once a week and did my crappy little jokes. The MC was Tommy Davidson.
Oh,
I
wow.
remember him
from In Living Color.
Yeah.
This was before In
He
Living
was
Color.
a wild little dude.
He was a nice guy.
That's good.
And then 2 years later, when he hit In Living Color, I was an extra on that show, and he recognized me right away, and he was very cool and said hi, and I remember that. But I was so bad.
Hey, Joe Dugan.
And, yep,
I know you.
That's exactly what he sounds like. I look back on those days and I think of all the people I met, and I remember so many of them, and none of them made it. And one of
tough.
them.
It's like 1 in a million.
Among the open micers, there were a few regulars there who have work now. Don Barris used to come in. He was a regular there, and he would come in on Sundays and do his set. He's now the warm-up guy for Jimmy Kimmel, so he's doing all right.
Oh, that's a good gig.
Doug Benson used to be there, and this was before he was all about the weed, and he was very different back then.
I don't know. Who is he?
He's a big weed comedian.
Oh,
he does a podcast or did a called Doug Loves Movies. Mm-hmm. He's known among the comedy world.
Okay.
And respected, but he was very different back then. He was very buttoned down and deliberate and had these kind of Stephen Wright sort of jokes. He was funny, but just different. And I look back at that going, oh, okay, so it's okay to change who you are. Because I've changed just in 6 years. I've
I'm
changed
assuming.
things up. Yeah. So that's been a trip, just looking back and seeing how these people changed. And part of it is just stick-to-itivity, you know? You just stay with it, you'll get better at it.
Right, of course.
And that's, but I quit back in 89 or so because I just didn't, I look back, I think I did maybe 40 mics in my entire period back then, which is nothing. And I didn't write too many jokes, and I didn't know what I was doing, and nobody gave a shit, and I don't know what to do here, so I just kind of stopped.
But you don't do them now. I mean, are the open mics now out of your desire? You just want to do gigs.
Yeah, but again, that's part of the big desert that I'm walking into now because it's harder to get things out of these open mics. When you're starting out, you have things like nerves, like speaking into the microphone, like finding your light, like having your jokes memorized, which I believe you should do even at an open mic. Most people don't, but I think you should. And that stuff, you need to master that stuff. After a while, you have all that down, and then you're going, okay, well, what am I doing here?
Right.
But then you get atrophy because you're not doing anything. So I'll force myself to go out once a week or so, and that's the lull I'm in right now.
Right.
To go out once a week and just
Right.
do it just to do it. And it's nice when you're older because some of these newbies who don't know you, to you, they are an actual audience, and they treat you as such because you're not in a room full of comedians, and they all, especially if they know each other, they're all kind of like, whatever, I don't want to, who is this guy? I just wait for my turn. Give me another beer. And they're not having fun. But when I go up there, I'm wearing a jacket. Sometimes I will open with old stuff just to sort of train the audience, like, oh, shit, this guy's a real comedian. We should
Right.
pay attention. And all of a sudden, you've kind of won them over a little
Right.
bit. It doesn't always
and
work.
It's old to you, but it's new to them.
Right.
You know,
Exactly. And that, but the point being is you're trying to treat a room full of comedians as an actual audience, and it's not easy to do,
Right.
especially if they know you and if they've been in the game as long as you have or longer. But if you
Right.
go to an open mic where they don't know who you are, and you're wearing a jacket and you're older, and I'm telling you, wearing a jacket, just for you guys in the room and for anybody listening, when in life, fellas, trust me, put on a jacket. I don't know what it is, but people suddenly think you're a college professor.
And you got instant respect.
They
right?
treat you like an authority.
And glasses. helps
yeah,
too.
I've gotten MC gigs because I'm wearing a jacket. Honest to God, they think
and the material of the jacket, I've seen guys wearing blazers and they're seeping through them in their armpits. You see the sweat.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen you sweat through your armpits.
Oh.
I've seen it in your shirts.
Yeah,
but
well,
not in your jackets.
no, I don't. Well, I have
'Cause
a
that
shirt
would
on.
distract me greatly.
Right.
I think you were a college professor. But
Maybe you
I've-
can put like Dr. Scholl's in the
Yeah.
armpit or
I've
something.
done that. I've actually worn a jacket and a shirt and then a T-shirt underneath to try
Yeah,
to sop
right.
up what I can.
Right.
And then I dry clean those fuckers.
Right.
I got a big dry cleaning bill because I got to. I'm afraid
Yeah.
my jackets are going to stink, and I don't want to offend people with walking around. Oh, there's the guy with the stinky jacket.
Right.
His dick jokes would have been so much funnier if his jacket didn't stink.
God, that reminds me like when I was, really just broke and struggling, I'd have to go to the, what are they called? The thrift shops to get clothes.
Right.
And I'd get blazers and jackets, and they stunk to high hell from the odors of the former
Right.
wearer.
Yeah.
And
then
it
you-
was that ripe, burnt fabric dude
Yeah.
stink that would emit when you mixed your sweat with theirs.
Yeah.
It smelled.
gross.
They smell like death.
Yeah.
Death.
I've bought those, and in fact, I've spent more money on dry cleaning the jacket than the jacket. I'll buy a jacket at a thrift store for $5 or $10 once in a while.
To this day.
$10. Not recently, but yeah, it's a little $10. But then I'll go get it dry cleaned, and it's $15 or $20 because I'm going. I got to
consistently.
I don't know who's worn this, but
Right.
in any event,
Let it dry in the sun.
getting back.
Oh, that's really?
Oh yeah, what I do is I love thrift stores. Half of my closet are thrift stores.
Is that true?
Oh yeah, I go all the time. The compliments I get the most on anything I wear, it's always from a thrift store.
Wow.
But it's got that smell. I let it hang in the sun for a week. The sun will get rid of it. Then I wash it. It's fine.
But what if it's a dark garment? Doesn't the sun bleach it and lighten it?
No.
Really?
No. I mean, I don't let it sit out for a month, but a week, it goes away. And the trick is I hang it right side in and inside out.
Okay.
Right in the sun all day long. It's fine.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll remember that.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. But what were we talking about?
I have
material.
no idea. We're talking about basically you're done with mics, open mics.
Yeah, it's
They're for losers.
No,
and
they're
you're
not.
and
there are
you've
a lot
grown
of,
up.
There are a
and
lot
if
of
you're doing an open mic, fuck you.
Fuck you.
That's a great attitude. But
No, you have to start there.
you
have
do,
to.
you do. But at the
Because
same time,
there's nowhere else to go. And what
Really
it is
there isn't.
actually, I'm just kidding. The open mic dynamic is anyone can do it. It's
Yeah.
open to anybody.
Right.
So it makes you not have to be George Carlin to go on a stage and talk.
oh, the pressure is totally off.
Right.
There are no scouts at open mics, but at the same time, you have to ask yourself, why am I here? What do I hope to gain from this? And I like to do open mics at places where I can, because I'm learning it's more than just about writing good jokes and memorizing them and reciting them. After a while, anybody can do that. You realize that. What I'm trying to figure out is this weird dance where you're actually connecting with an audience, and it's a conversation, but you're the only one doing the talking.
Right.
And it's a tricky beast. And I've seen people who do it, and it's so. What's amazing about it to me is that it doesn't look very different from what I'm already doing, but it's actually very different from what I'm doing. And I can't explain it any better than that. But there are people who will do that. Like, watch the clips of Patrice O'Neill, for example. Everybody was just enwrapped with what this guy, not just the heaviness of the social shit that he was saying and the quality of the jokes, but he was having a conversation with people, and they were just in it. They were responding
Right.
with laughs, of course. But
Right. But he was
that's an
engaging,
example of a guy.
really
Yeah,
engaging
I
them.
think so. When I think of a comedian who's just like not just telling jokes at people, but engaging them, that's the guy I think of. And I'm going, wow, how do you do that?
But isn't that almost going back to what you were voted on in high school? It's about you being a unique personality.
Right.
And tapping into that. Not being an alternate personality. I would assume the more you do it and the more comfortable you get, you're actually more comfortable just being yourself.
Yes, and I've
So-
done a lot of that where I'll walk, especially at open mics where the pressure is totally off. I'll go up and just start improvising and fratching and just going off on topics.
Isn't that the best?
when it works?
Yeah.
When it
But
doesn't work.
isn't that the goal? I mean, let me ask you this question. Who is and I can only assume the people you're going to mention are very unique personalities. Who is your, I don't know, 4 or 5, who's the Mount Rushmore of comedy for you?
First one that comes to mind has got to be George Carlin.
Okay.
I mean, the way he can just pick apart what the shit that's going on in society now.
And that's a pretty unique personality.
Yeah.
I don't think he was acting. I think that's who the man was.
that really is who he was.
Right.
And
it worked.
He worked best when he actually had a point. Sometimes
Right.
he was just mad. And there were some things he was
Right.
mad about. I'm like, and he made fun of, what else? There's another group of people I just want to jam ear picks into their assholes. Or, these people, what are these goddamn rock stars with one-word names? I heard that one. I'm going, wait a minute. People like them, George. I think you're off base on this one. But there's that guy. There's I love watching Bill Maher's show, which is not to say all of Bill Maher, because it's not all Bill Maher. It's obviously some Bill Maher, but a lot of it is his writers too. But just the way they can pick apart the horseshit going on in society
Right.
nowadays so elegantly. John Oliver is another show that I think does it better than. I think these shows are the modern day Carlins and Lenny Bruce's and Richard Pryor's in
Right.
their own way. The way they can just look at the news headlines of
Right.
the week and just eviscerate them
Right.
in a way
It's-
that makes perfect sense.
comedy / social commentary, satirism.
Yeah,
all of
and
that.
we need it now. I got paid, and I just put this on Facebook today, which I think you saw. I just came back from the Seattle International Comedy Competition, which is probably the nicest line on my resume. So far.
Congratulations.
It's not easy to get into.
Were
So
you invited?
Yeah. Well, I had to apply, but yeah. I got in.
But you were picked, and so
Yeah.
a lot of people were not picked.
Yeah,
Good.
and
That's great.
it's a big one.
That's
it's not
very
It's not
cool.
one of these. A lot of these competitions and festivals are just money grabs. This one is not. This one has developed a reputation for good talent.
Like people could get springboarded from this thing.
It happens. Industry shows up. People have gotten signed and deals
Wow.
at this. Yeah,
With the fact that you were there, you have no idea who saw you.
right.
Congrats.
And
cheers to you.
Thank you. And
That's awesome.
As time goes on, none of them contacted me, so I'm guessing they didn't like what they saw. But
Well, you just got back.
I just got back. But the guy who runs it is a great guy named Peter Gray, who paid me a compliment a few nights ago. He said, I mean, at first it was a little weird. He said, "You are the kind of guy you should have replaced Jack Parr." And I'm going, okay, so you think I'm 90? Like what is this? What are you saying here, sir? And I think he said he just appreciated my approach towards societal humor or something, or he said he really wanted to see me interview people.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which-
that right.
Now I get, I'm starting to get that thrown at me. So
Right.
maybe I should start a podcast.
Maybe you
because
should.
No one's done that.
Right.
Comedians haven't done any of those.
Max and I think, have started the genre.
Yeah, I think I'd have to come up with a new angle for the podcast if I just started one out of
Right.
thin air.
Yeah, but
I-
we were in the car for 90 minutes. You didn't ask me one question.
Yeah, I'm not that interested in you, Max. Seen it all, heard it all, blah, blah, blah. I actually call your wife once in a while. I say, how's Max doing? And she tells me she's much more interesting.
She really is.
But
Whoa.
I don't know.
Fuck was that?
I don't know. I forgot how we got on this.
I asked you. Your
We're
Mount
talking about the
Rushmore.
Seattle. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
you got on the Seattle thing. I asked you who your Mount Rushmore people was, but
What
the
do you
thing
have,
is, though,
Alzheimer's?
And then we got on. Yeah.
yeah. But I want to ask you though. You applied, but you were picked. It's almost like going to South by Southwest if you're a band or something.
Yeah.
I always put everything in a band context because that's my life. But I get it. When you were doing your shows, like 100 people in the audience, 200 people, was
yeah.
it a good turnout?
Oh yeah. Every show was 2 were in big actual playhouse type theaters, and those had 200 people.
Wow.
Because
Yeah.
that's bigger probably than most shows you do locally, right?
What do you mean?
As far as the number of people.
Oh yeah. Oh, I rarely do shows with that many people in them. Rarely.
So that's great.
That
And-
was just
so that's
being
a
in
good-
front of that many people was
and
great.
to engage 200 people is a lesson in itself.
Yeah, especially when you can't see them.
Oh, because the lights are in your eyes.
Some of the lightings, yeah, you've
Right.
got to bluff your way through as if
Right.
you're making eye contact. So another little trick I've learned is before you go on stage, stand in the house and try to see where everybody's sitting.
I
Then-
saw
Oh.
Joe at a bowling alley once to
Really?
stand up. Yeah, and there was bowlers in the background. And
Wow.
You
Did they
just gotta-
sta-
He made it work.
You got to
Wow.
deal with it. Yeah,
I got to come.
you got to. I've had that feeling. Sorry, but there was that. There was.
Are you getting laid as a comedian?
Not really, but you don't want to.
I think he's tapped out on the ladies thing.
Yeah,
Really?
Some of the women you
I think
meet
he's
in
I think he's
comedy.
done.
What if it's a really hot girl comedian?
He doesn't give a shit.
Do you know one?
He like
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just in a weird place there. I don't
All
know
right.
what it is. I like my life the way it is.
That's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, I like women, but I'm just
crankier than ever.
I need a woman who's as cranky as I am.
Yeah.
Is what I'm
Well,
saying.
they're out there. Trust
who
me.
has her own life.
Yeah.
And just doesn't want to change me and doesn't.
Right.
It's like great.
And
you're
you don't
busy.
wanna
And maybe
change
wants
her.
to see you once a month,
Yeah.
have fun, and then put you. It's like, goodbye. I'll call you.
Exactly. I want remember when Woody Allen was married to Mia Farrow and they had apartments across Central Park from each other and they'd
Right.
wave to each other in the morning?
Sure.
That's what I want.
That was before he was fucking
That was before
her kid.
That's
she
right.
found out that
So
he
you
was
want
fucking
someone
her
with
kid.
about 8 kids?
Yeah, I want
and-
somebody.
And one of them is really cute.
Exactly. I want somebody who lives in a condo in my complex across the way, so we can wave at each other in the morning.
Right.
And then I'll see you in a week or
Right.
something.
And you can
know?
tell yourself you're with this girl without really having to be with her.
Isn't it?
You get the best of
perfect?
both.
Yeah.
Actually, it sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Plus, no, I don't meet. There aren't too many. There are comedy groupies. I don't meet too many of them. That has not happened. I've met a few. I don't think anything's really happened. I'm trying to remember, but nothing's. Not much has happened. Things have happened. There are
Now,
things have happened.
but that could be. Do you talk about that in your act?
No, I don't talk about that.
Do you
Perhaps
get
I
personal,
could.
or is it
Yeah.
more societal?
I
get-
told you to get more personal,
I've-
and I think you've become more you in your act because you started out this character. You would come out on stage with a bell,
Oh yeah, I
and
did the
you'd go
bell.
ding every
Yeah.
time you told a joke.
Sometimes I would tell a joke and go bing, or I
and you had all these weird premises, and I pulled you aside. I'm like, what happened to you?
Right.
You're
You know
so
what?
much funnier than.
Well, that
these
was going back
weird-
to my other point. I would assume the more you do this, the more you you become.
It's in a way, it's
And
like
now you're you.
In a way, it's like therapy in the sense that you don't get to the shit right away.
Mm-hmm.
It takes months and months and months of just the therapist hammering away, and then one day, stuff comes out, and it's kind of like that. And then so I have to go through these phases, and you're right. I did a lot of weird crap when I
Right.
first started doing stand up, and then you just start talking, and then the act of talking normally with a normal cadence will bring people in, and they're laughing with you. They're not laughing at you.
Right.
Because there are a lot of comedians who have this sort of
Carrot Top going, Wah!
yeah, which is, I mean, that's his style.
Right.
No knock on him. He's making $1 billion a year right now. in
I
Vegas.
hear he's pretty fucking funny, and I just bought his DVD at a yard sale.
Really?
Yes, because I thought, gosh, I hear this guy is really crazy. I've seen him a bunch of times in the Jerry Lewis telethon, and I remember laughing at Carrot Top because he just pulls out props and does weird shit with it. And obviously, he looks kind of carved up and odd. But I bought this DVD, and I'm kind of excited to get a little fucked up and see what Carrot Top's really about.
I bet he's really funny.
Yeah,
but
I mean, who
he's
knows?
a guy that obviously when the lights are off, he's not that guy.
Right.
He is playing a character.
Right.
And it's working. That's fine. But
Well,
I don't see that that's going to be your
Is he?
road.
I mean, is he really playing a character?
I think I saw one interview with him when
He was more
actually-
subdued?
Yeah, he was. I mean, I think if you were that way all the time, I think you'd probably kill yourself.
Yeah, but and this is an interesting
I don't think he's that. No, I never met the guy.
I
but
wonder. I've
Well-
seen him too in interviews though, but he seems like he's that guy.
Well, here's
maybe
the
just
thing.
a little more amped up, but
I got a couple things to say. Number one, I met Carrot Top a few years ago. I was at the World Series of Comedy in Las Vegas, and he came to speak to us one day, but 100 comedians sitting there, and he just told his story about how he got started and all that. And he took time to pose for pictures with all of us. And as I blog posted after that, I think we can all stop the Carrot Top bashing because he is a really nice guy.
I'm sure.
And he
Yeah.
told the whole
But no-
story about how when he started, he felt like a piece of crap, and he was.
I'm intrigued by him.
He was
Right.
laughed at, and nobody took him seriously. And he went to New York and bombed, and everyone said, "You're an asshat. What are you doing with this trunk full of props, you idiot?" But he finally caught on. And the other thing I wanted to say is, I don't think any of those on stage characters or personas are entirely out of whole cloth. I think Andrew Dice Clay really does have a little bit of him that's like that. I think Carrot Top has a little bit of him.
did you
that's like
see
that.
it when he talked to you?
Not really. But
He was someone different. He was more
yeah,
subdued and
he
more
was
normal.
he was a
and-
regular dude.
right. Exactly.
He spoke to us just like a dude. It's
right.
like I started.
That,
30
that's
years
what I would
ago,
think he
and-
would.
yeah.
Because if he was like that in real life, I think he would go mad.
Yeah, but point being, I don't think that started out of nothing. I
Right.
think there's a
That's
part
a
of him
part of him.
that's like that, and I think that's true of all comedians who are like that. What's magical to me are the people who are just naturally like that, and then they get on stage and they blow the roof off. And I don't know how that's mystical to me. How they can just walk around and be that way, and then they can just sort of, oh, this is the part where I do material, and it sounds like a conversation.
Right. And they turn it on and turn it off.
Yeah.
And I guess it's either a gift or hours and hours of honing it down.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I've gone to Largo a few times to see Patton Oswalt's monthly show where he'll have
like him a lot.
Sarah Silverman and Bill
Right.
Burr and people like that. And he'll come on stage to open before the MC comes out. He'll just come on and talk, and it's fucking hilarious because but they're not bits.
Right.
If they are bits, he's weaving them into conversation
Right.
so effortlessly you don't notice.
Right.
But it's so easy with him. And at
Right.
that reminds me of the time I went to Largo and saw, I keep forgetting, spoken word guy used to be a punk rocker.
Henry Rollins.
Henry Rollins, yeah. Yeah, that guy's amazing.
Yeah, he is.
Of course he is.
That guy's unbelievable.
He's one of my all-time Biggie heroes.
And he's really
Unbelievable.
funny.
Yeah. Funny, but nonstop.
Right.
And that's remarkable. And there's a guy, and I kind of wonder if stand-up is evolving to something else right now because, Max and I were just talking about Patton Oswalt's recent special where he
Yeah.
talks about his wife dying.
You seen that, Lorenzo?
Right. No, I know about it, though.
Dude, check
Yeah.
it.
It's so good. Short list of the best Netflix
It's
comedy
crushing.
specials.
Really?
But hilarious. yeah.
Okay.
But it's got long moments where it's not funny because
not
he's talking about
funny.
how
Right.
shitty this is.
Right.
And there was the guy who there's something called Three Mics. I think it was Mike Birbiglia. Forgive me. I forgot the name of the comedian who did Three Mics. But Mike 1 is just, waka waka kind of jokes. Mike 2 is more conversational stand-up. And Mike 3 are stories. And he tells these stories that are not funny about his anxiety. And I kind of wonder, is stand-up going in that direction? Into something that's not
On
just...
stage confessionals?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or just
people-
more being raw and engaging.
Yeah.
And not really joke.
Right. And joke gets boring.
Yeah.
I've seen that. And I get bored doing it. And I don't blame audiences for getting bored because it's not again, the architecture of a joke is one thing, but you need to build a house.
Right.
You know?
How do you handle hecklers?
Luckily, I don't get too many of them.
That's great.
You'll roll with it. A lot of it is that I think the best way to handle a heckler is to be ready for them before you go on stage. Don't go on stage saying, I am going to recite these jokes. It's not a play. It's a conversation. And once in a while, somebody responds differently than with laughter. And you got to acknowledge it. And this will happen. It's great practice to in the moment decide instantly, do I acknowledge this or not? My second night in Seattle, I came out with this opener that I do that always, always, always works. It was, I walk on stage, I grab the mic, and before I even take the mic out of the stand, I say, hey, everybody, first of all, I know what you're all thinking. You're looking at me going, wow, that little guy from Game of Thrones is really tall in person. Always works. And while they're laughing, I take the mic out of the stand, and I put the mic stand aside, and then I start my set. Because I know
a great icebreaker.
And I know it's going to get a laugh. That's why I wait
disarm
to take the mic out at that moment.
Right.
Friday night, second night, I do this up in Auburn. We're at this big theater in Auburn outside of Seattle. I do this opening. I put the mic stand down. I turn around back to the audience, and some drunk woman in the back goes, Tyrion! Because that's the name of his, Tyrion, what's his name? Tyrion Lannister? Is that the guy's name? On Game of Thrones?
I don't watch that fucking show.
I have no idea.
Okay. I thought you for sure.
I do not watch that show.
We're the only two in the Western Hemisphere.
Apparently,
that
the three of us are the only people who don't watch it.
I've never seen it.
But she said it loud enough for the whole room to hear it. And I had about a third of a second to say to myself, do I respond to this person?
Wow.
Or do I keep going? And I kept going.
Good.
Which is kind of like code for shut the fuck up. This is about me. There have been 12 other comedians who've gone up before me, so you should fucking know by now. Don't heckle.
Right.
Yeah, but again, you have to gauge that because there are all these factors going on.
Right.
The MC has got to acknowledge it. The MC has to say, hey, this isn't television. We can hear you. Or whatever that comeback is.
But that's just part of your chops. I mean, that's just a tool that you over time, once it happens, you just know what to do.
Yeah.
And it just takes a lot you haven't had a lot of those situations.
No.
But if you did, then, this is situation number 100 of a heckler. I know what to do.
Right. But it's a tough thing because there's no way to practice it.
Right.
That's what's hard about it.
You got to be on stage getting a heckler.
You've got to just do it over and over again and then practice getting heckled.
Right.
So, but I don't get too much of that, fortunately.
Let me go back to what you said because I think there's also just one natural thing. Besides people trying to be funny and writing funny things, they talk about Patton Oswalt just goes on stage and just starts talking. He's hysterical. It's just because he's a funny guy.
Right.
Yeah.
People are just funny.
Yeah.
Now, can you be a comedian and be intellectually and be clever, but you're not really funny in real life? Does that happen? Because I think that the people that can go on stage and just talk are just funny. Their brain works that way. They have a bent. They could see anything and just make it funny off the cuff.
Yeah, but
not everybody is off the cuff funny.
Yeah, but you're probably funny in real life if you can do that.
If you can write funny.
If you can go on stage and be funny, then you could probably be funny off stage.
No, but I'm saying though, if you don't write it, if you can be if you have to be a Patton Oswalt funny just by talking.
It takes a long time to get there.
Okay.
What you don't see are all the years and years of crappy open mics they did. Bill Burr has talked about this because he's been doing comedy for 25 years or something. And for years and years and years, it was set up punchline, set up punchline, set up punchline. And there's a reason nobody knows who Bill Burr was 20 years ago. It's because he was just another face in the crowd. And only in the last 5-10 years has he blown up because in addition to all the work that he put in, he reached a point where he was able to speak in a more extemporaneous way. I think his podcast has helped him with that. I've seen him. I used to listen to his podcast, not as much as anymore, but I used to. And then literally 2-3 days later, I'd be in a club and he would do a drop-in and he would do that bit that he did on the podcast.
Right.
It's not that he was testing it out so much in the podcast. I think he was practicing extemporizing. And I think that thought probably occurred to him. But it's to the point, I'll see, like Bill Burr is one of the few who will walk on stage with notes, which is verboten in a show where people are paying money.
Oh, really?
But the guy is so...
I saw Carlin do that.
Yeah, but again, if they're legends, you'll let them get away with anything.
You get a pass.
And he's reached that point where he's respected enough.
I see.
But he's not reciting, he's not reading from a script.
Right.
It's a card that has like 9 words on it.
And he's trying things out.
Exactly. But he just doesn't know what subject is next. But he knows enough when he sees the word, parrots or whatever he's talking. He doesn't talk about parrots, but he talks more substantial things than that. He knows what that is, and he'll just launch into it because he probably thinks about this crap all day. and then he's had so much practice talking. I've noticed people who work in radio, former people in radio and podcasters are very good at this. It's not that they're necessarily the best joke writers, but they're very good at talking extemporaneously, and they know how to fill time. They know how they have a patter, and it's not hard for them to get up in front of a room full of people and fill the time in an engaging way. So they can take that thought and they can craft it into some kind of a joke. And I've done that at times. I'll start talking about something, and then I'll just do an aside, and I'll just keep going. But things will occur to you because you've done that before, and that's the benefit of doing this years and years, of experience in the past. And that's the benefit of a guy doing a podcast every Monday morning, or having worked for years in radio. And I've done shows with people who've worked in radio, and you can tell because they've got this inherent effortless ability to maintain a pace, and they can lead the audience. They can say, here's the joke, and let the audience laugh, and then before the laughter is almost done, they'll start the next joke.
Right.
I'm curious, having said all that, and Bill Burr and his process, today, as a comedian, where are you as far as your approach, comfort level, being, Joe, and are you, like I asked before, are you personal? I mean, obviously, you can talk about Trump forever and today's climate. Are you more, do you get stuff from the news and you just riff off what's happening topically?
I do both. And I tell you, one thing that was an eye-opener in Seattle and also a little bit depressing was that my favorite comedians in Seattle were the ones who were talking about stuff outside of them. There were 16 of us in Seattle. Among the other 15, I think my favorite was a guy named Andrew Frank, who had some stuff about the Bible that I thought was so funny. And it wasn't about him. It was about the Bible. And it was just a very simple observations. I'm going, oh my God, this is brilliant. Like he was talking about, I'll quote from the Bible. God said, thou shalt not spill thy seed on the ground. He was like, why do we need this rule? Who's jerking off on the ground? Which is a simple, the funniest shit comes from dumb crap that your wife or your mom says or something, because then you can just extrapolate the illogic of it. And the Bible is the perfect place for this because it's filled with illogical shit. And so you have this thing about thou shalt not spill my seed on the ground. Why do we need this rule? Did God come down and say, okay, everybody, what the fuck is this? What? It's everywhere. What have you people been doing? And every time Andrew did it, I just lost it because it was such a funny idea. Oh, fuck. Call Noah, build an ark. We're going to have a flood. We got to wash all this shit away now. It was such a funny idea. And I'm going, oh, my God, that's been right in front of my face all this time. And I bring it up because I like that kind of humor, and yet people will still get in my face and say, talk about your life. I'm going, my life is boring. I've never been married. I've never been divorced. I have no kids. I've never spent a night in a hospital. I've never been arrested. Nothing fucking interesting has happened to me. Why do you want to know about my life? I'd rather talk about the bullshit in the Bible. I'd rather talk about how Congress has an approval
He didn't
rating.
understand why, and he's been on a bunch of my shows from the past, but he didn't understand why we wanted him here tonight.
You're entertaining.
He didn't.
I appreciate
you
that.
can't look at you. I'm totally entertained.
I appreciate that.
I got a million questions.
Keep going.
Well,
you want to make this a two-parter, man?
Yeah,
Let's
you
hang
might
out.
have to be because I didn't
out.
want it to be like a 2-hour podcast.
I have to scratch my balls.
All right, Max has to scratch his nuts.
Oh, God.
All right.
Get a crane.
Can I talk for a minute? Now, you comedy is sort of a science for you. I think everything is very analytical and broken down on that giant fucking head.
Yes, I do treat stand-up comedy like a puzzle.
You do. Everything is very scientific. So now you're at a point where your comedy store teacher, you started taking stand-up class with...
I started taking stand-up classes 6 years ago with a guy named Jerry Corley.
Jerry Corley.
He's got a...
I've been to Jerry Corley showcases. Mm-hmm. I went to yours at the Comedy Store. I went to my friend Stephanie's at the Comedy Store. I go to these things. They're pretty insufferable, and sometimes they're amazing, and you were amazing at yours.
I appreciate that.
And then all of a sudden, Judd Apatow pops up, and he closes the show.
Unannounced.
Unannounced.
Wow, how cool.
Because he has, like, the main room show at 10. This show's at 9. He pops up. He does 10 minutes. I'm telling you, like, when I saw my friend Stephanie, Judd came up there, and it was just like, wow. I'd never seen Judd Apatow. I respect him totally as a filmmaker. And
was he funny?
Freaks and Geeks and the
40-year-old virgin.
The 40-year-old. Well, I'm not so much a
I
fan of
love that movie. I think that movie's fantastic.
But yes, he was hilarious. And all of his material was Trump. And how many times have we covered the Trump stuff? It just keeps providing. I saw a comedian saying that Who was it that I saw? It was Patton. Remember when Patton was talking about there's too much Trump material? You'll see. I don't want to give it away for Lorenzo. But boy, was it a great point. But now you're teaching stand-up.
Yeah. Yeah.
For Jerry.
Yeah. Jerry had hired, there were a few of us that Jerry would hire once in a while to substitute here and there because he'd have a gig or something, and we'd go substitute for one night. And he'd been talking about having me take over a class, so I took over his Saturday class about 2 months ago, maybe a little more. The new session just started. And yeah, I'm the first regular substitute teacher who's taken an entire class over for him. So
wow,
now
congrats.
So yeah, but I like it because it, there's an old saying, the best way to learn something is to teach it to somebody else. And it's helping me because it forces you to be incredibly analytical about other people's stand-up.
Right.
And you can say things like, hold the mic closer. I mean, anybody can tell you that. But, you need to say things like, yeah, I think that needs some editing. I think you need to.
Are you a gentle coach or
Oh,
are
yeah.
you a hard ass? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, you got to keep it light because a lot of these people
Yeah.
are petrified. So
Sure.
you definitely have to
But
keep
how
it light.
honoring that of everyone that he could have asked, he asked you.
Yeah.
He probably thought that you had a good grasp on what needed to be taught.
Yeah. No, he
Which
trusted
means
me.
you've done your homework.
Yeah, and he's been a great inspiration, too, because of his positivity. I mean, the way he treated me when I first met him, because I'm like, can I do this? I don't know. And I went up and I remember he had a Groupon or an Amazon Local or one of those things for a weekend workshop that he teaches to get people to start taking the class. And I took the workshop, and part of it is a lot of it just here's how you can structure. Here's this kind of joke structure. Here's that kind of joke structure. Here's an exercise in class. Pop, 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 pop. We covered a bunch of stuff, and then everybody goes up and does 3 minutes. If you've got stuff, great, because some people have done stand up before, some people haven't. He said, whatever you got. And I went up there and I cobbled together these 3 minutes that I had. And he actually said at the end, he said, you know what? I bet if we tightened that, you could probably go audition at Potluck at the Comedy Store,
Wow.
and you might get passed.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the level of where I was at when I started, which is another recurring theme in my life. I wait too fucking long to start things. Going, wait a minute, I guess I should have started this a long time ago. It's
Right.
like, yeah, dumbass, you should have.
Well, you're a late bloomer. That's all.
Back to Lorenzo's point, though, about like true funny. I mean, I am a person that's never believed you can teach comedy, but I do believe you can teach, like with stand-up, you can teach how to get up on stage, talk into a microphone, and hit jokes.
Yes. Oh, the technical aspects
There
of
is
it?
a technical aspect to stand-up.
Absolutely, including the structure of a joke. There's
Right.
absolutely a scientific aspect for the
Yeah.
structure of a joke. I don't know if that's true of every joke. A lot of jokes are the marriage of the phrasing and the delivery, and there are some people who just are inimitable. I mean, Stephen Wright wouldn't be nearly as funny if he talked like us.
Right.
He's funny because he sounds like he's on downers.
Right.
I mean, that's part of what makes that so hysterical.
Right, exactly.
So that's part of it. But at the same time, a lot of jokes, I mean, especially a perfect example is any late night monologue. You listen to any
Yeah.
Colbert
Right.
or Kimmel or Fallon,
Fallon,
any of these
right.
people, all of those jokes are three-way buildups or
Yeah.
incongruities or misdirects, all of them. That's
What's a
every si-
misdirect?
A misdirect is where you think a joke is going one way and it goes another way. It's
Right.
basically you're assuming facts, not in evidence.
Right.
Right.
It's like, I mean, I'll rip this one off. Jerry does this all the time because when he teaches, he has a showcase with his students. Part of his introduction is he talks about how comedy can't be taught. He says, well, comedy can be taught. Here's an example of a misdirect. I was at a hotel in Reno, and at 5 o'clock in the morning, the chambermaid was banging on the door, just banging and banging and banging. Finally, I went to the closet and let her out. Misdirect. Why? Because you assumed she was in the hallway trying to get in. That's a misdirect.
Right.
I mean, that's a common trope in
Right.
comedy.
Right.
And a lot of jokes have those things buried into them. Watch, oh crap, who's the guy from Pittsburgh?
The guy from Pittsburgh.
Thoughts. Who did Thoughts and Prayers on Netflix? Was it Anthony?
Oh,
Jeselnik. Jeselnik. He has a lot
That
of
was
those.
a pretty sharp, brutal show. Yeah.
He's funny. He's
Yeah.
a good guy. But
I like
if
his
you watch
delivery.
the structure of his jokes, there's a lot of misdirects in
You're
there.
right. You're right.
He's got stuff in there. You assume one thing, and then all of a sudden it's something else. And it's pretty dark too, and that's what people laugh at is the dark shit.
Do you when you learn all the techniques and you can choose, okay, I can have a joke that does this, or I can have a joke. You get a whole toolbox and you get to choose what kind of jokes you want. Do you like misdirection?
Oh yeah,
Do you use misdirection in your act?
certainly.
Oh, okay.
My favorite kinds are simple truths. I love jokes that are just like things that are in everybody's face that you don't even realize. Like my opener about looking like the guy from Game of Thrones.
Right.
It's a fact that's right in your face and you don't realize it
Right.
until somebody says it.
Right.
Who was it? I think it was.
And the funny thing is that you're saying it.
Yeah, but it works when it comes from a personal place.
Right.
but we had a student in the class a few months ago who loved donuts, and when he told jokes about donuts, they were funny. Anybody can write a joke about a donut. They were funny when he did it because he literally, and I'm not making this up, he would drool talking about donuts, and that was so
And that's
endearing.
funny.
What was a donut joke of his?
I don't remember any of his jokes actually, but the passion that he had, it was like he was talking about a painting in the Louvre or something. The way he went on about donuts, but the simple truth thing, I love the simple truth. Like I think forgive me, I think it was Matt Kirshen was on Craig Ferguson a few years ago, and he had a bit where he was talking about. I was talking to a woman who was talking about the plague of like sugar, ruining kids' teeth, and I'm fucking up the bit, but it's something like the mother said, "This is the worst plague that's ever plagued children," and he's like, I would think the plague would be worse than the plague, Yeah. But it's an example of taking one thing, going back to the Bible. You take something ridiculous and just extrapolate the illogic of it, and I love things like that. I used to have a bit I used to do a long time ago talking about how nice they were at work. They gave us free food. They gave us fresh fruit, and they gave us dried fruit. And the fresh fruit was out in the open, and the dried fruit was in resealable bags. And there was no follow-up to that, but I just thought it was a funny observation.
It is.
Why is the dried
it's
fruit in a
completely
resealable
illogical
bag? And then I would, you see, everybody,
Right.
I'm going to try to explain the fact that fresh fruit will go bad if it's not in a bag.
Yes.
I had to think about that one.
But I love, which is another problem.
But I
I've
always
had.
feel
If you have
stupid
to
around
explain the joke, then
But that's another thing that I've struggled with too. Is some of my jokes are too smart, and I'll tell a joke and then
You've
have to
always been too smart.
You're a too smart comedian.
tap the mic afterwards. And a headliner once told me, he said, "I love your stuff. Be dumber." And I thought he was kidding, and he said, "No, seriously, be dumber."
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Dumb
really?
it down.
Too smart.
Wow, I guess there goes my shit about the Federal Reserve.
Exactly.
So am I funny to you?
Oh yeah.
Oh, good.
Oh, you're hilarious.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, huh?
Yeah, look at you.
Look at me. Huh?
Yeah.
This is a comedy mentor.
That's
talk.
right. You didn't take no class.
I didn't take any class in comedy.
No, but you're very good at you will extrapolate a moment. You'll add on to a moment, and people are good at indulging you.
Right.
I love it when Brett Pearson's just is the straight man to you. Just asks you, what does that mean? Because he's an improv guy. He's all about yes and.
Right.
What does that
Yeah.
mean? What? What? Oh, Mr.
Yeah.
Cook, what's going on, sir?
I'm seeing him tomorrow, and we have developed this it's like all we do is bicker when we're just the two of us, and it's awesome.
The best, when we did baseball back in 1999,
Yeah.
we acted in a play. Brett,
I saw it. You were in it?
Yeah.
Oh, so I
Yeah.
didn't really know you then.
Yeah, we
I
didn't
was
know each
there.
other. This was a long time ago.
I remember
He
baseball.
was on the team. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
All of his scenes were with Adam's shoulder.
Oh, okay.
The best part of that was hanging out before or after the show, usually after when the pressure was off and
Yeah.
people were getting drunk.
Yeah.
And just you and Brett goofing off.
Yeah.
Well, Brett's hysterical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was the best. And Brett would just tee him up for you and you would go off. That was funny shit.
And he's just naturally funny.
Yeah.
He's just a funny human
Yeah.
being. Yeah. And
yeah,
it's just-
Brett Pearson. Shout out to Brett Pearson.
Oh,
He's a
absolutely.
wonderful
One of the
man.
most talented
he's-
guys
he's,
ever.
He's utterly.
He was a
brilliant.
great guest on this show.
Yeah.
He's great. Hello, Brett. Also, I just want to say, if anyone's listening and interested in seeing Joe, it's Dungan. Mm-hmm. Dungan. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if they look in the LA Weekly,
Is
and
it
they
weird
see-
having the name Dung in your name?
see Joe Dungan, go see his show.
It's not weird anymore.
Yeah.
My last name used to be Manure Man. So
Did you get made? Did you get made
changed-
fun of with that?
better than
pronoun?
shit, man.
a little bit? I
Hey,
didn't.
dung man.
I didn't know what dung was till I was about 10th grade or something.
Right.
And nobody didn't occur to me that dung was actually something dirty.
No one's really calling it dung unless you think dung beetle.
No.
Right.
No.
Dung is such an anachronism. Who uses the word dung?
No one.
Isn't there a dung plant? Like a plant that
Is there a plant?
opens up because it smells like dung once a year? It's called the dung.
He likes fart jokes, Mr. Smart Comic.
Oh my god! Nothing beats a
Mr.
fart joke.
You're too
huh?
funny. He's
'Cause-
laughing at.
'cause-
It's not even a built joke. It's just.
Aren't we all like 9-year-olds, really? When you strip off all the
Let's
layers.
have a sleepover, the three of us.
All
tonight.
right, okay.
Sleeping bags, fart jokes.
You know, they say that farts
Okay.
are funny.
Can I get an
'cause it's-
Airbnb when you do that?
Farts are funny because they sound like trumpets. But I mean, I think a fart would be funnier if it sounded like even any other instrument. Imagine a fart sounding like a piano.
Okay.
Or a fart sounding like a clarinet. I mean, that would sound even funnier. If you imagine a fart coming across sounding like an accordion, would that be the funniest goddamn thing?
That would be pretty
If
great.
Lawrence
That would
Welk
be-
was coming out of your ass.
That's another thing. You love old-timey TV and stuff like I do. Like you appreciate the Love Boat.
When I get up in the morning, I eat oatmeal, and I drink coffee, and I turn on Channel 2. I watch the CBS Morning News.
Yeah.
Which is the old guy morning
Yeah.
news. I don't watch that Today Show. That stuff is horrifying. I think Tom Brokaw writes in his journal every night about how awful the Today Show is because it's just terrifying. But in between commercials on CBS, I turn to channel 2.2, which in LA they have like these digital channels that are related to the local channels.
Right.
And 2.2, it's like reruns of Green Acres.
How do I find that?
You just turn the.
I don't
knob to the
have
next-
a TV from 1965. You're turning a dial? You don't have a remote? I have DirecTV.
Okay, well, it's probably channel 147 or something.
Oh, there you go.
It's carried, but they show reruns of like Laugh In.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's like the TV Land, the
Yeah,
TV channel.
it's kind of like
yeah,
TV
and they have
but you never know what you're going to
Hogan's
see.
Heroes
Yes.
and all those great
All those
shows.
old stuff.
Love
and
that stuff.
Dick Cavett show. and-
Absolutely.
yeah.
You know,
I will watch that stuff.
all
So I'm
the
kind
old
of an old
detective
soul.
shows, Mannix.
I
and
used
all
to
those
watch.
shows.
I watched Johnny Carson when I was in high school.
Oh, I love Johnny
And
Carson.
I remember a lot of the comedians I saw. And
Sure.
I remember their bits.
Right.
Wow.
And I'm looking back now and thinking, oh God. Sometimes I'll think of these old bits that I saw 30 years ago. I'm going, wait a minute, that's a little bit sexist. Why did they laugh at that? Oh, it was the 80s. That's
Right.
why.
Right. And racism too. I mean, a lot of that stuff you couldn't say now. I mean, they'd be writing in the streets.
Yeah, and that calls into a question that's really interesting that everybody loves to talk about is can you joke about anything? And
Theoretically, yes.
yes, I believe that.
You know,
Theoretically, you can, but then again,
It's up
you've
to
got-
you to whether you're going to be offended or not.
Well, it's up to the comedian to ask how much shit do I want to take.
Right.
Because I think rape jokes can be funny. I had a bit about rape that I used to do.
But what if you qualify it? I mean, what if you say, look, I know it's really bad, but if you are raped, blah blah blah.
Well, again, it has to do with your audience.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I mean, theoretically, anything can be offensive. I mean,
Of
there are
course.
people, yeah, and if
You got
that's
to
the
let
case,
that go. If someone comes to you and says, "Oh, what you said was really offensive," you have to say, "Sorry, you feel that way."
right? But now you're talking about things that are on a spectrum because obviously we can sit here and say, okay, rape, kind of a touchy subject. Race is always a touchy subject. But honestly, somebody out there is going to be offended by your bit about thimbles.
Absolutely.
Honest to God, there's some asshole who's going to go out there.
You still
and
have
say-
to do what you feel like you want to do.
Right. That now comes down to the comedian because
Right.
everything is on a continuum. If
Right.
you look at everything, the most innocent shit or the most damaging shit.
Right. It's a choice.
Because I used to do a bit about rape in which I clearly did not condone it. Right up front, I said this is an absolutely awful thing, and then I went into the bit, and at no point did I condone rape. And people were still offended by it. And I'm going, but I'm not condoning it. And I think that just the discussion
was there
of
an
it-
audible from the
there
joke?
was a little. Well, there was some withdrawing. There was some silence, but it wasn't. It got back to me. There were a few people who said, you really shouldn't talk about that.
But it's still up
I'm
to you
like-
to say, you know what? I'm going to be true to myself, and I think this is funny. So I appreciate that you felt that way, but I'm still going to say it.
right.
People
That's
are
your
full of
decision.
shit. People are full of shit. The great and mighty Larry David hosted last weekend's
Yeah.
SNL. And he did a Holocaust.
And he's Jewish, so
He's doing a Holocaust, but it wasn't a joke. People are like, I can't believe Larry David did that joke about the Holocaust. It wasn't a joke about the Holocaust. It was a joke that takes place on a concentration camp. It was basically a joke about a guy. Does he have any game hitting on a girl in a concentration camp? And the scenario was fucking hilarious. It just so happened to be happening on a concentration camp as the Holocaust was happening.
Right.
And then it gets all blown out of proportion. Even my stepdad on Facebook was
Really?
"Wah!" about it, and he's a hypocrite because he turns right around and watches Larry David and texts me, "Wasn't Larry great last night?" It's like, come on, and he posted, oh God, something about the terrible shooting down in Texas this past weekend, and someone out of nowhere in his thread goes, yeah, and how about that Larry David? I was about to do a text, but I remembered it was a Jewish guy who said it. How about that Larry David with his joke about the Holocaust that was so offensive? And I had to chime in. I said, that joke was utterly innocuous. Stop it. Stop it.
But
And-
but he's right. You can
And the
offend
Jews are
any-
the funniest people. Would you say the Jews are the funniest people of all?
that's racist.
I would say the blacks. I
Black
think
comedians are-
But you can make
Black
a,
comedians
you
are
can make a
funny.
joke
Yeah.
about
In the book.
puppies and people will be offended.
Yes.
So it's up to you to do what you want.
Right. And for me, it was another subject matter where I saw absurdity. And that's why I talked about it. I didn't talk about it in offensive
You can also
way.
diffuse the uncomfortableness of something bad by humor.
Yes.
Humor can be a bomb
Well,
to take
my
away
joke-
all of the stress.
One of my jokes, I haven't told the bit in a while, so I've forgotten some of it, but one of my observations was, I said, rape obviously is a terrible crime. It's also a very strange crime because look at the cost-benefit analysis. Clearly, you're not getting much from a rape. If you look at the risk-reward there, what is the point of a rape? It just seems really dumb. It seems to me, if you're going to commit a crime, bank robbery is the way to go. Because, yeah, there's a risk involved, but look at the reward. You do a bank robbery, you do it right, you're set for years. You do a rape, I mean, you're set for what, a day? You got to do it again? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, at no point am I condoning this.
Right.
I'm just
Right.
pointing out what an absurd
Right.
crime it is. And I'm
Right.
not dismissing how awful it is, because I know it's
Right.
happened to a lot of people, and of course it's terrible.
But they hear what they want to hear.
Yep.
They
That's
hear
what
rape
wanna-
and they hear,
yeah.
oh, he's talking about it, therefore, and they put on all these other meanings.
And in fact, I know a woman who who heard me do that bit in an open mic, a comedian. She came up to me and told me how much she liked it, and I just found out recently that she had been raped at once.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And she told me how much she liked the bit. So
Right.
it really runs the gamut.
It is. You have to be true to yourself, but it's also another decision. Like a lot of comedians, like Bill Cosby, I have to bring him up, but he was a champion of this, even though he's Bill Cosby now. He wouldn't swear.
Yeah.
So it's another choice. Like you cannot swear. You're Richard Pryor. Every other word is fuck. Or you can be one of those people that just say, you know what, I am not going to use that crutch to get a cheap laugh. I love Richard Pryor, and he didn't get cheap laughs, but he swore a lot.
Right.
That was his thing.
Keep in mind, he did it at a time when swearing was not as socially acceptable, and it worked. And there's a
Right.
moment in Jaws which they swear. I heard Spielberg explain it, and he did it in a very calculated way to get a laugh, and it worked back then. And now it's just another word.
Right.
So that's why I try not to lean on it either, because you also want to.
But that's a choice. But you also could lean on it.
I could,
if
but
you
I
wanted to.
think it dilutes the jokes I'm trying to tell, which is why.
But that's your choice.
Yeah.
But it's also, again, like the choice if you tell a rape joke, even though some people might get their feathers ruffled. But that's your choice. You can choose to be talking about taboo subjects. Or you can choose to swear or not swear. All of that is on the comedian. You know what I mean? And people can basically like you or not.
Yeah, and it's really about what point you're trying to make, and that's the thing for me, because it's one thing to make a clever observation, but if you're trying to make a bigger point, then it's onto something. You're onto something else. Even as an aside, though, you can still throw these things in. My favorite rape joke of all time, and I've heard plenty, is Louis C.K. was talking about it,
And I
he
love
said-
him. He's amazing.
He said, "Yeah, well, when he's not exposing himself to people, allegedly."
I wish all of this stuff stayed behind closed doors. It just makes me crazy.
He said, obviously rape is not okay, except if you want to have sex with somebody and they won't let you. And it gets that laugh
Yeah.
because
And
it's so
funny.
dumb. It's funny.
It's funny.
Yeah.
And of course, like you were saying, like Stephen Wright, he has a way of saying things because he's saying it his way. It's really funny.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's another one who's a master of just having a conversation.
But put in the work, years, decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes Bill Burr said this once, it takes 20 years to figure out how to walk 15 feet.
Well,
Because from the moment
a good line.
the moment you get get up from your seat to walk on stage, something happens and
Right.
you're not yourself anymore.
Right.
And it takes a long time to figure out how to
That's
just be
interesting.
yourself again.
Oh, that's really interesting.
And you just have to practice it. And
Right.
honestly, 5 days in Seattle, I feel like a different person.
That's great.
Just walking
That's
in
so
front of
It's
different
great
crowds.
that you
Yeah.
went. Because I'm sure some people would go, "Oh shit, I've been accepted," and they just don't go.
Yeah, and I know there were a few dropouts. I don't know who they were or
Right.
why.
Well,
but I
you
know a few
didn't
people
drop out, so good for
No.
you.
Yeah,
That's great.
I'm glad I did it.
You're a better man for it.
Yes, I am.
That's cool. Kudos to you.
So you wake up in the morning, you have your oatmeal, you watch your CBS morning show, you watch the Little Green Acres. When is it around the time that you start to feel like, uh-oh, I've got to go
To the bathroom?
make a potty? Yeah.
Oh, right after I have oatmeal.
So right away.
So we're changing the subject then? Is that what this means?
So it's coffee, oatmeal.
Yeah.
We're done with your
Uh-oh.
career. What are your bowels
So you go
like every day?
Now I know.
Now he
why.
lives in a condo with
Now
his
you
brother.
know this is what Max thinks about.
Well, I was thinking that.
I already know that.
So you live with your brother.
And by the way,
thank
Max, my
God-
shit doesn't stink.
I'm sure.
Oh, wow.
But thank God you don't have to share a potty with your bro, Chris.
No, we do.
Oh, you do? So
We-
do you inhale each other's Dungan odors? I mean, my God. I do not want to smell my brother in the
Well,
morning.
when our schedules align.
I don't want to watch Zsa Zsa and get wood and sit there with a shit boner smelling my brother's ass. I don't want that. personally.
Okay,
It was
well,
actually-
but you
can't-
have 2 bathrooms.
It was
don't
Ava,
you?
actually.
Oh, it was Ava.
It
you're
was
right.
Ava.
You
Wasn't
can't
Joshua.
rent the other room in my joint now.
Oh.
No, I don't smell his. I don't. What did you say? A shit boner?
No, you have the shit boner.
I do not have
After looking
shit
at Ava.
boners.
Haven't you ever had to take a shit? But
No,
you
wait.
were hard?
Time out. For all the women listening to this podcast, I do not get shit boners. Okay? I am a man.
But don't you and Chris have 2 bathrooms?
yes, we have 2 bathrooms.
Okay, so you're not. Why are you telling me you share one if you have 2 separate ones?
Well, because I go to the one that's closest. I don't want to go upstairs to the.
Why not? Oh, because you share that one too.
So yeah. What
Oh
difference
my
does it make?
God, they have 2 bathrooms and they share them both. See, if I lived with my brother like you live with your brother,
Yes.
no. I don't care if I have to go upstairs. I will be more inconvenienced. I would not share a bathroom with my brother.
Oh, that's good to know.
Now, okay, so if you have to shave in the morning and he has to shave, where are his shaving things?
On the other side of the sink.
So all of your toiletries are in the same goddamn bathroom?
No, his are airlifted in from China. What the fuck? Of course they're in the same
So
bathroom.
you stand side by side at the sink.
No.
Good morning, shaving together?
No, we go in separately. We don't
like-
share the goddamn bathroom at the same. We're not married. Jesus.
So wait a minute. He takes a hot, steamy shower, gets out, wipes everything, spritzes down, hopefully leaves, and leaves a steam mirror. You go in, time for you to take your shower, or you don't take a shower and you shave. So how does that all work? Why can't you just use separate bathrooms?
Well, first of all, we only have one shower. Second of all, he leaves for work a lot earlier in the morning than I do.
Oh, that's
Third,
good.
sometimes he takes a shower at night.
oh,
Goes to bed, wakes up in the morning, just gets dressed and gets out.
I don't like that.
So, well,
I think you have to shower in the morning.
well, I'll make sure he knows that, Max. But we do fine.
You
We
know,
are rarely in each other's way.
let me just say this.
Yeah.
If I decide, like tomorrow, I have a 9 a.m. appointment, most likely I'm not going to shower before then. Most likely I might go home tonight and take a nice hot shower real quick before I get into bed. Okay, so when I wake up in the morning, though, I still know that there's that underarm, crotch sort of feel. So what I'll do is I will take a booty wipe and I'll wipe under my armpits and I'll wipe my bag and then deodorize and re-spritz. As long as those areas are okay, then I can go out into the world.
If it's a really hot day,
Yeah.
and after the spritz, you're actually spritzing 5 minutes later, isn't the whole thing for naught then?
Wait, one more time.
If it's a hot day,
Hot day.
I mean, you wake up and
Yes.
you're taking your shower.
Yes.
The night before, you're not taking a shower
Yeah.
in the morning. You got your little wipes. You wiped off.
Yeah.
You're now clean.
Yes.
You're diseased and,
Yes.
you're sweat free.
Yes.
And you walk out and it's 90 degrees.
Well, not right now. Now it's cool. But no, yeah, of course, the usual heat of the day is going to take you down. But that's what happens when I come back at 3. I take a shower.
What do you do? What do you do when you travel to warm climates? Like you've been to Atlanta.
Oh, I hate them.
So you
I've been
just-
to Atlanta.
Yeah, you've been to Atlanta. I remember that. So you just have
2 or 3 showers.
just a bunch of showers.
bunch
and
of showers.
Wow.
But they're
Burner-
quick. They're quick.
Do you have like burner T-shirts that you keep changing and stuff?
That's interesting. I'll do burner panties. Not panties, but underpants. I may do that. Maybe socks.
and a case of wipes with you.
Those must be fun to explain at airport security.
That's right.
Sir, what are these for?
There's a big
Listen,
pot of wipes in your crotch, sir.
if you get the wet ones, they come in the convenient little packages. You can put a pack in your bag, a pack in your backpack, a pack in your frip, and a pack in your frip. And next thing you know, you've got plenty of wipes to last you for days. That's all I'm saying.
So is comedy
Was that
more perspiration than inspiration?
No, not anymore.
All right.
No, it is inspiration. I do enjoy just sometimes I'll go on Comedy Wire and just write punchlines to
But
headlines.
do you get aha
Really?
moments? You're driving and all of a sudden a light bulb goes on.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you get
that
your
happens.
moments of inspiration whether you're in the shower.
I keep one of these little memo
Oh,
pads
you have a
with me.
little old
I
school
love
memo
that.
pad.
Yeah, with the little spiral bound
little tiny
wire
awesome.
pencil.
Yep. Yeah, I have
Wow.
I got a pen right here in the pocket.
Wow, okay, so you do have those.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
you could be anywhere.
Yeah.
You could be writing something right now.
Yeah.
If
I
this
gotta-
wasn't so fucking boring.
That's right. Things will occur to me.
Right.
especially when I'm watching other comedians, which is a bit dicey because then if they see you writing shit down while they're on stage,
Do you get jokes as you're listening to a joke?
yeah,
Really?
But of course,
wow.
it's not their joke. I
understand.
never hear.
But they're triggering something.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm going, oh, that's interesting. Wait a minute. I could do that spin on that topic. And of course, it's different from what they're doing.
Right, you're not ripping
but
them
the fact
off.
that they're, of course not. But the fact that they're talking about that subject, I'm
Right.
like, wait a minute. I
Right.
never thought of that.
Right. Like
And then
subjects are
I'll-
not,
of course not.
You can't copyright a subject.
Yeah, although people have tried, I'm sure.
Have they really?
I imagine.
Although
There's some
you
people
can't
get
talk
mad
about what?
I've heard of petty arguments among comedians going, I do the shit about rowboats going over a waterfall. You can't talk about rowboats going over a waterfall. Like, dude, write something else.
Right.
Jesus Christ.
See,
I've
that's
got-
a pretty
I've-
powerful image you just conjured. And is that real? Rowboats over a waterfall?
No, I
Or
just
did
pulled
that
that-
just pop up?
I just made that out of
That just
nothing.
came right
Yeah.
out of.
But there are
See,
comedians
that's an amazing image.
who
Yeah.
will get mad that it's like you're telling jokes about potatoes. It's my thing. Yeah.
Right.
No, potatoes have been here since before either of us.
Right.
And I the best thing I ever heard about joke stealing was from Jay Leno. He said,
Leno.
you obviously need the joke worse than I do. You have it. I'll write something else.
Right.
And you think about it. I mean,
It's a joke.
yeah, big deal.
Yeah.
I'd rather be the
It's
guy
not Beethoven's Ninth
who has a joke
Symphony that you're
stolen.
writing.
Right. Just steal my fucking joke. I'll go do something else. In the years I've been doing this, I don't think anyone's ever stolen a joke from me. And there have been maybe 3 times where I've heard someone tell a joke similar to mine, and I thought, oh, okay, it's not the most original material, evidently, because someone else just told something similar. So I think I'll move on and just never tell that again.
You live with your brother. Do you guys go grocery shopping together?
No, we do not.
Does he do all of the shopping?
A lot of it, yeah.
So you don't go side by side with carts. Something tells me I'm into something good. And decide the menu. Does he plan the menu? Does he do all the cooking?
Pretty much, yeah.
And he's a good cook.
Better than I am. Yeah.
I've come to your place and I've seen him in an apron.
And what's your opinion on this?
So is it a well balanced meal he provides?
Oh yeah, I mean some of his stuff is a little out there. Sometimes he just like
Experiments.
oh yeah, like one time he tries,
Joe, tonight it's ceviche night. Uh-oh.
no, but it's like for example, a few weeks ago we had chicken and we had zucchini, and he just kind of he took a baking dish and threw them all in the baking dish
Oh,
and
no.
just threw it in the oven. He didn't feel like getting specific about things. He was tired. He's like, well, it should be heated.
Was
so
there a sauce?
nope.
It was just
nope.
zucchini
Just a bunch
and
of
chicken.
baked
He was
mush.
tired. He was tired.
But you don't make him feel like, what is this? You
No.
know?
Right. You appreciate the effort.
I appreciate the effort. Now, sometimes I'll say, do I put sauce on this? Or
Yeah.
what do we do here? He's like,
How many meals does he prepare a day?
No, no more than one.
Does he make your lunch?
No, he does not make me. He's not my wife. He's not. This isn't the 1950s. What
Okay, but Joe, how old are you now? 48?
48.
You're 48 and your brother is?
Older.
Okay, and you're all living together. You guys have been living
all two
together
of us.
forever.
Yeah, but
I think it's
working.
kind of a beautiful thing.
It's working.
It's
He-
great.
He's
and you guys are
responsible.
really good friends.
Yeah,
That's the
he's-
main thing.
Yeah, we get.
I love
along-
his brothers so much. And
Right.
you know what's
He's-
A lot
great?
of brothers can't stand each other.
No,
Yeah.
we get along really well.
That's
They're
fantastic.
great. They're great.
We
He's
have
great.
we have different worlds that we live in. There's some things about my world I'm just like, no, you can't be a part of this.
But that's fine.
And he's got his own
And-
world,
and
which is
you should.
that's part of how it works. Is because we're not.
Do
in
you
each
sit on the
other's-
couch
Right.
reading books from separate ends of the couch with like little lights on your books, just quiet time?
Yes, we are Mike and Carol Brady. We sit there.
I
reading
want to
books
know
together.
how you share a life with. a
I'll
man.
come home. Here's what happens. I'll come home from work sometime after 6. You know.
I know
7-ish.
he's not saying hi, honey.
And then I'll come in. He'll hear the sliding door come in. I park in the back of this
Yeah.
carport. I walk in. A sliding door. He hears it. He'll come downstairs and he'll say, "Okay," and he'll start making dinner. And it's
That's so sweet.
yeah. He'll have something like that he's gonna make, and it's like already on the stove. He'll just turn on the burner. It's ready to go.
It's prepped.
It's all prepped. Or he's like, "I'm gonna take this out. I'm gonna reheat this," and you know.
You get to come home to this sweet little mustachioed man who has food ready for you.
And then he'll turn on.
no issues.
Sweet little
No.
mustache. Is he
Yeah.
married like or with living with Super Mario or
He's
something?
Mr. Moneybags
He does
from
have
Monopoly.
he does have a mustache.
Yeah.
But
Actually, he has a mustache.
he does have a mustache.
According to Max, it's a
Yeah,
mustache.
it is a mustache. I'm always talking to Chris about his fashion. I think he's come a long way. But the point is, you guys are living together in this little world, and it's a beautiful thing. And then, are you kidding me? This fucking guy's mom has a house in Los Osos.
Oh.
On the Central Coast.
Oh.
Outside of San Luis
This
Obispo.
Very
fucking
nice.
guy.
Yeah.
Listen,
Wow.
we love mom, but when she's out of here.
We're at the house.
These fuckers are going up there, and they're gonna live the dream. And then the wife and I are gonna be up there.
Wow.
We've hooked up a few times.
Have you?
Oh yeah, are you kidding? My wife's mom,
That's
Sherry.
a beautiful area.
Oh, Sherry Lynn LeMay. Oh,
I know where
she's
this
a
shows.
nutbag. Loves Joe. Still asks about this motherfucker. Oh, I'm the devil. I'm the worst thing that's ever happened to her daughter. But every time Nicole talks to her mom, how's that Joe Dungan doing? I sure like him. Remember that one time he came with his brother Chris? We went up to the Central Coast with her parents.
I like how
once.
Nicole's
It
mom
was a
sounds like
nightmare
Mr.
trip.
Hanky.
That Joe Dungan, he sure is.
How's Joe Dungan doing?
Third get my drawers going. Ew. I get little swipes and pull down, look down, and what happens is Joe gets me going so much that when I pull down my panties, the cotton part that sticks up all in between your lips sticks there. Meanwhile, the elasticity around the waist or around my knees, but the padded part is still stuck in my labia. And then there's whoosh. Wow.
That was quite the weekend.
Joe gets you going that much? And then I get mad
wait,
at Joe.
wait.
No, I got
No,
mad at you.
wait. Time out. If I get her going that much, how come we haven't hooked up?
I don't know, but well, she's in Florida.
Help a brother out
But
here.
then Joe left, and I was like, what the? Like, Nicole and I had a little mini fight. Well, it wasn't a fight. It was just me yelling at my wife. What the fuck? All of a sudden, Joe Dungan shows up
And you're the
in the
Antichrist.
at our rented house in the Central Coast. Doesn't do anything, and she's mesmerized.
Didn't she sit on my lap?
She did. She loves you.
She gave you a lap dance.
My wife's mom loves Joe.
I
make
think
it-
I think she was drunk. In fairness, I think
Right.
she was.
Maybe
drunk.
she was just drunk
She doesn't drink
with a glass
Probably
full of Joe.
One sip of wine.
I love how Max. We're talking about Chris and I in the house on the Central Coast, and it turns into how much your mother-in-law hates you.
That's right. It all goes back to him.
Well, you would know better about these comedic transitions than I do. I don't know.
That was elegantly done, actually.
yeah.
No, that was well done. And yes, my mother had a house on the coast. And
That's
it's
amazing.
lovely. Yeah, and we talk about. And Max and I driving down here, we're talking about what a filthy whore Los Angeles is.
Yeah,
becoming.
we're really not happy.
We're
here.
just
And
getting-
I know. I mean, you're living in Santa
I
Monica.
live in what I have to say. If you have to live in LA, this is probably the best part of LA to
It's
live
nice.
in. But it's just the amount of people. There's an attitude here that's really kind of caustic, and obviously you have to make a lot of money just to get by
Yeah,
here.
you do. You
and
do.
There's a lot to be said for just land and clean air and less people.
Yeah.
And living the next half of your life just simpler.
Yeah.
And less noise. You know.
And I think
So
I think
when can we all go to your house?
whenever you want.
All
Let's do a
right, cool.
podcast up there. Mom's cool.
That would be fun.
She's never done a podcast. I'm
That
sure
would be
she's
really
got a
fun.
lot of nice stories to tell.
I'm sure she does.
I really would love to talk to her.
Yeah,
I don't
well,
think I've ever met your mommy.
you've met Mom
When did I meet her?
at baseball. There was
I
one
met her
night-
at baseball.
There was one night at what's that Italian restaurant we used to go to?
Yes, Michelli's.
Yeah. We were all hanging out there
We
one
had
night.
so many great nights
Yeah,
at that place.
and then you did your Max thing and made the rounds and talked to my mom, and my mom's friend was there, and you
Yes,
flirted
I
with
did.
them and
I did
made them
flirt.
feel because that's who you
Well,
are.
well, like his mother-in-law talks about you, did she say, "Oh, that Max?
Yeah, that god-
Where's he?"
Yeah, she won't shut up about
Right.
Max.
Ooh. Did she sit on your lap?
no, I don't. I just don't have the Joe magic when it comes to women.
What magic? I really don't have magic when it comes to women. I
No, I
really
know.
don't.
You are an engaging
listen,
personality. I have never spoken to you as much
Can we speak honestly?
as I did as we're doing tonight. I think you're really amazing.
Are we
Thank
allowed
you.
to
I
speak
appreciate
honestly?
that. We can speak honestly because I've been bullshitting all this time. But
No,
if you'd
no.
like to go to the honesty mode,
Okay, now hour 2 is going to be the real Joe, dude.
I made a fatal error. I set up Joe, essentially. I'm the one that orchestrated a certain woman that you wound up living with. That didn't really work out. So you kind of have me to blame for that.
No,
No?
I'm responsible for all my own shit.
See? He knows.
He's an adult.
But I've also set up Joe with a few other friends.
Well, he wanted to be set up.
He had a coffee date with a
You
friend of
didn't
mine.
force anybody on the man.
Yeah.
Did he actually blackmail you into going?
No.
But,
Okay,
but
so-
you do see that I see a very smart, attractive, little Aspergery guy that that is awesome.
Am I a little Asperger?
Aspergery?
You might be a little spectrum. Have you ever
maybe.
been tested,
No.
Joe? Come on, you're like that.
Is it
kid
the
from
size
that
of the
play.
head issue?
It's the size of the head. What's that kid from that play? The play that was just in
Oh,
LA.
the taper about the
the autism-
15-year-old?
Yes, the
Yeah,
autism
okay.
kid. I kind of thought a little bit about you on that one.
Thank you. Hey.
But again, it's that thing where you're a little too smart. Like, what if you? It's so funny that you chose comedy for a life, and I know you proofread, and it's so funny. Every time I will write a little rant on Facebook, I will be laughing in my head, thinking, "Gosh, I wonder if Joe's reading this and looking at all of my terrible grammatical errors." And sometimes, haven't I come at you? Where can you put a comma? Where can you put a?
You may
colon?
have, yeah. Yeah, it's just the way my brain works, man.
I know, it's just
You do, like with
but the fact
anything.
that you chose comedy with a brain like that is amazing.
Thanks.
Do we want to do a part 2?
I think we should do a part
I think
two.
so, too.
You
I
know,
would
it's
love
okay.
to.
And we have another bottle of wine too.
Yeah, I mean we're going along. We're probably going to have this be a 2-parter because it's
Yeah.
engaging. There's a lot to get to.
It's too much fun.
You know, should we?
We
should
get this guy with us.
Should we end this for part 1?
Yeah.
Okay, let's just make this part 1. Joe, this is the end of part 1. You
Okay.
have there's so much on the Dungan spectrum that we need to
Dungan!
I'm sorry, that we need to get to.
You got it.
So people listening, there's going to be a part 2. So listen to this all the way through. Take a break. Have a glass of
break.
wine.
Have a glass of wine.
And
Breathe.
breathe and leave some space in your life for part 2.